I'm 85 years old, and I spend most mornings sitting alone at the small kitchen table, listening to the sound of nothing in particular. No radio, no television, just the hum of the refrigerator and the clock I forgot to take down years ago. It's in those quiet minutes that the truth has finally settled in me. Not all at once. Slowly. The kind of truth that doesn't knock, just waits until you're tired enough to let it stay. I used to think loneliness was something that happened to people, a bad turn, an unlucky ending. I told myself I'd avoided it. I had a job, a family, people who knew my name. But now, at this age, with most of my days behind me, I can finally see it for what it was. Much of the loneliness I feel now, I helped build it myself. I'm not saying that to punish myself. There's no point in that anymore. I'm saying it because I don't have many reasons left to lie. Time feels different at this age. It doesn't stretch forward, it presses down. Each day feels heavier, not because of pain, but because of awareness. You become very aware of what won't be coming back, of how many voices you won't hear again, of how quieter life can get when the echoes finally fade. I don't tell this story to be understood or forgiven. I tell it because I'm near the end of my own explanations, and I don't want to carry this realization out of the world without saying it plainly at least once. When I was younger, I didn't think of myself as someone who pushed people away. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't cold. I showed up when it mattered. Or at least, I thought I did. I paid my bills. I went to work. I did what was expected. I believed that was the same as being present. In my 20s and 30s, life felt like a series of necessary tasks. You wake up, you go where you're supposed to go, you come home tired, and you promise yourself you'll do better tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes a very convenient place to store things you don't have the energy to deal with today. I worked long hours, not because I loved the work, but because it gave me an excuse. Being busy sounded responsible. It sounded noble. No one questions a man who says he's tired from working. No one asks what he's avoiding. I told myself I was doing it for my family. And in some ways I was. We had a roof, we had food, we had stability, but stability can become a wall if you hide behind it long enough. There were invitations I postponed, conversations I shortened, calls I didn't return because I told myself I'd talk when I had more time. I truly believed there would always be more time. That belief sat quietly in me for decades, never challenged. Friendships don't usually end with arguments. That's something I didn't understand back then. They end with delays, with unanswered messages, with months passing where you assume the other person is busy too. You don't notice the distance growing because it grows the way rust does. Slowly and out of sight. There was a friend I had since my early 20s. We worked together when we were young, ate lunch from paper bags, complained about the same things. He used to call me on Sundays. At first, I answered. Then sometimes I missed it. Then eventually I stopped expecting the call. I don't remember deciding to let that friendship go. I just remember one day realizing I couldn't remember the sound of his voice anymore. Family was similar. I was there, but not fully. I listened with half my attention. I nodded when I should have asked questions. I thought being physically present was enough. I didn't realize how much people notice when your mind is somewhere else. My children grew up faster than I remember. One day they were asking for help with homework. The next, they were adults with lives I didn't quite understand. I told myself that was normal. That distance was just part of growing up. What I didn't admit was how often I chose comfort over connection, silence over curiosity. Loneliness doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives in pieces, so small you don't bother counting them. A birthday you forget to call about, a visit you postpone because it's inconvenient. A moment when someone opens the door to something real, and you change the subject because you don't know how to respond. I didn't think those moments mattered much at the time. They seemed minor, harmless, but they stacked up. And now, looking back, I can see how each one quietly narrowed my world. The turning point didn't come with drama. It came with a phone call. One of the last, actually. A relative calling to tell me someone I used to know had died. Not someone I saw recently, someone I used to know. That phrase landed heavier than the news itself. I sat there after the call ended, holding the phone, realizing how many people in my life had shifted into that category. People I once laughed with. People who knew my younger face. Gone. And not gone suddenly, but gone after years of distance I never tried hard enough to cross. There's a particular kind of grief that comes from knowing you could have done more and didn't. Not because you were stopped, but because you were distracted, because you assumed there would be a better time later. Illness came after that, not dramatic, just persistent. The kind that reminds you your body is no longer interested in your plans. Appointments replaced outings. Rest replaced routine. And as my world got smaller, the quiet got louder. That's when loneliness finally stopped being theoretical. It wasn't about being alone in a room. It was about realizing how few people would notice if I didn't leave that room at all. There are things now that can't be fixed. Relationships that can't be repaired because one side is no longer here. Apologies that have nowhere to land. Questions that will stay unanswered because the person who held the answers is gone. That's the weight of it. Not that I made mistakes, everyone does. It's that so many of mine came from waiting, from choosing later over now, from believing I was protecting something important, when really I was just postponing discomfort. I used to think loneliness was the absence of people. Now I know it's often the absence of effort. Not effort in a grand sense, just the small, ordinary effort of staying present, of showing up before you're forced to. If you're listening to this and you're younger than I am, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I wouldn't trust anyone who did. I can only tell you what I wish I had understood sooner. People don't need you to be impressive. They need you to be there. They need your attention more than your explanations, your time more than your intentions. Loneliness doesn't wait until old age to begin. It starts when you stop answering calls because you're tired, when you assume silence means understanding, when you trade closeness for convenience again and again without noticing the cost. I thought I was independent, self-sufficient. What I really was sometimes was unavailable. There's still a little time left for me. Not much, but some. I try now to answer when the phone rings. I try to say things when I think them. I don't pretend it fixes the past. It doesn't. But it makes the present a little less hollow. If this meant something to you, if it stirred something uncomfortable, you don't have to act on it immediately. Just notice it. That's often where change actually begins. As for me, I'll finish my mornings at this table. I'll listen to the clock. I'll remember the people I loved imperfectly. And I'll carry the quiet understanding that loneliness wasn't something that happened to me at the end of life. It was something I slowly shaped along the way, knowing that doesn't save me, but it does tell the truth. And at 85, the truth is about all I have left to offer.